What's up everyone, welcome to another episode, and today we have Abhinav. Abhinav is from Google, but I will let him introduce to this channel and to this podcast episode. Let's do it.
Hey everyone, my name is Abhinav. I am currently a program manager at YouTube, and I live in the Bay Area right now, but I'm basically from Nagpur, India, which you may know very well.
Yes.
We are from the same state.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fact, and I want to tell it that today is the day when I joined Google 4 years back.
Nice.
So today is my
So your 4-year anniversary.
Yes, and they call it Googleversary internally. So I'm completing 4 years at Google today. But
Nice.
obviously I'm a YouTube employee right now.
Yeah. This video is not sponsored by Google, but Google, if you're watching it.
Yeah, good to call that out.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna make 3 kind of episode with Abhinav. First one is gonna be focused on his educational journey. Second one is gonna be focused on his career journey. So he did not start with Google, so how he transitioned into Google. And then the third one will be focused a little bit on personal finance. So this one is educational. Let's do profile because everybody loves to know profile. What was your GRE, TOEFL, bachelor's?
Sure. I started engineering in industrial engineering. So
Oh, wow.
my bachelor's degree is actually in industrial engineering.
Okay.
So for those of you, your viewers who are actually from industrial engineering background and not a technical background, which when I say technical, I mean computer science, IT and things like that, they should be happy with industrial engineering as well.
Totally.
And I did my bachelor's in a college called Ramdev Baba College of Engineering and Management. I've gotten that reaction a lot of time because of the name, but I've gotten that reaction a lot because of the name. But this is in no way related to Patanjali or Ramdev Baba Yoga or anything like that. It's a privately owned college in Maharashtra. I did my bachelor's there. My aggregate out of my bachelor's was 77%. And industrial engineering, to be fairly honest, I think it doesn't have math a lot. And I think that is what attracted me as well.
That you didn't want it to do math.
Yes, I think I was a little scared of math, which is why I decided that I'll enroll for industrial engineering when I started looking out for options. At one point, I thought I want to go into CS as well, but I do not know if it was destiny or whatever. I was just stuck with industrial engineering, and starting with my second year, I started liking that branch a lot because it was a lot relatable to your regular life.
Okay.
So 77% there, and after that, I decided I'll go for my master's.
Did you have any work experience or right after?
Zero. So 4 years of engineering, I got placed in a company in Nagpur. Really good offer, really good company. It came in with the dream company status as well. I got placed there, and at one point I felt like I will not now go to US.
Because you already have a nice.
I live in Nagpur. I'll have a really good life, and it happened so that I had already applied for my college applications, like for my college admissions by then, and the offer happened after that. I started getting a lot of rejections from the colleges that I felt.
So, what was your GRE and TOEFL?
Oh, yeah, sorry. My GRE score was 310.
Okay.
And TOEFL, my TOEFL was 98.
So what's bad in that?
So I think TOEFL is deemed to be an easier test.
Yeah.
And
I had 85, I think.
Well, I think I could have definitely done better.
Okay.
But TOEFL was the time when I was appearing for TOEFL. That was the time when I actually had an offer from my company in Nagpur. So I was like I'm not going anyway now. So let's go enjoy Hyderabad. So I went to Hyderabad with my parents, and I was having a really nice time. My TOEFL went bad and I got a 98 score. So I was super scared now, what will happen with this. But fortunate enough that my aggregate from bachelor's helped me get an admit from 2 out of 7 colleges that I applied for, out of which Georgia Tech was my first preference because their industrial engineering program is the best.
Okay.
But I got an admit from Clemson State University. Is it Clemson? No, sorry. I got an admit from Clemson University, and the second one was from Pennsylvania State University.
Yeah.
And I still remember, I think it was March 13th, when I got that admit from Penn State. I was in a restaurant with my parents and I started shaking. I could not believe it because it was like very much, I was desperate to get that. After getting a lot of rejections,
Right.
it's like, I need this desperately.
Yeah.
So I got that, and the thought process was, now should I give up Penn State and take up this job, or should I go to Penn State?
And Clemson was out of question.
Clemson was out of question at that point.
That was more like your safe university.
Exactly, that was my safe university.
Okay.
And I decided that I will go to Penn State, and that was based on a lot of conversations I had with my seniors. And I'd like to call this out, if at all my professor in college, in Ramdev Baba College, is watching this video. He made a statement when I was discussing this exact same thing with him. He was like, when you can earn 30 lakhs per annum, why do you want to settle for 3 lakhs per annum? Go to US, get your education done without any work experience. At that point, I did not think that work experience is going to matter when I look for jobs in the US. But that's how it was.
Nice. Okay. You covered a lot of questions because I was going to ask you all these, but you already there. So you came to Penn State. What masters were you studying? Like, what was your major?
Again, industrial engineering.
Okay, you did industrial engineering. Yes. That's interesting. So that is actually, I didn't know that. I thought you were from computer science or like MIS because you're a program manager. So I thought maybe but this is more interesting because now I have another person who talks about industrial engineering moving into Google. So it's possible.
It is 100% possible.
So let's talk about what is industrial engineering. What did you learn? Like, was it 2 years program?
Yes, my master's at Penn State was a 2 years program. You could have completed it earlier, but that was the ME degree and not the MS degree. And ME was more of a professional experience where you complete all your coursework and you submit a project paper sort of a thing, and you're out of the college. I decided to go for the MS thesis track. So the ME program is actually the Engg program. So it's like
Masters of Engineering.
Yeah, it's a professional track. MS thesis was where you had to actually conduct research with an advisor and publish papers and like eventually like defend your thesis and stuff like that.
So did you do ME?
I went for MS thesis.
You did go for thesis. Yes. Okay, got it. Is it fun?
Now that I think about it, it was a lot of fun because I got to explore a lot of different things, but it's stressful as well. And I can only imagine how stressful PhD must be, because this thesis itself tired me enough that I was not ready to go for a PhD after that.
Yeah, okay. All right, so industrial engineering, what do people learn in industrial engineering?
The very first thing that comes to my mind when someone says industrial engineering is like supply chain, because a lot of industrial engineers you will hear talking about supply chain and production engineering and materials management, production management and things like that. What I sort of started feeling once I started learning more and more about industrial engineering courses was it's pure common sense. Like you learn common sense, but in a technical manner. You learn the methods behind how industries work, how factories work, how production happens, things like that. But I put a lot of focus on supply chain because a lot of industrial engineering students create this cover around supply chain when they are taking up industrial engineering courses. They would try to focus more and more on supply chain courses because that's booming. It's never going to stop. Products are going to get shipped no matter what happens. You can clearly see in this pandemic Amazon is doing the best right now.
Yeah.
And that's all because of its logistics and supply chain network.
Right.
So industrial engineering teaches you a lot about how things move from a manufacturer to the end consumer. And I think there are aspects of industrial engineering, at least in my college, that exposed me to database management. And that exposed me to a little bit of C, C++, and things like that.
Okay.
Because a lot of students, while learning supply chain, can eventually go into software companies that develop software for supply chain.
Right.
So
there is like a tech part in industrial engineering.
Exactly.
I've also heard that there's a data analysis part and data scientist part in industrial engineering.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm now very curious because your transition from industrial engineering to Google is going to be very interesting, but we'll get to there.
Sure.
What does coursework look like? How many core courses? How many electives?
So from my Penn State program, if I remember correctly, you were supposed to take 32 credits.
Okay.
Out of which, like, I think 30 were course related credits. So you're looking at 10 courses for the entire duration. Yeah. If you're doing the Engg track, you are basically taking 30 credits. You do not pay for those extra 2 credits.
Okay.
And 30 credits all coursework. So the coursework at Penn State was a mix of everything, but you had an option to go out of your major and take courses from other majors as well.
And how many core do you remember? How many core?
I think it was 9.
9 out of 10 were...
No, 9 credits. I mean.
Oh, okay.
So like 3 courses.
So only 3 were core, and then
I think so. I'm not 100% sure.
I mean, it is possible that only 3 could be the core, and then 7 could be electives.
And I do not know why. I don't remember a concept where I was actually looking for any core courses that were needed for the course. Like, I do not really remember anything like that.
Okay.
It could be the case very well, but as far as I remember, I think 9 credits were something that you had to take from your core courses.
Okay.
But talking more about coursework, there were a lot of supply chain courses, of course. Like that goes without saying. A lot of us opted for supply chain when we joined. There's this amazing course at Penn State called Supply Chain Engineering, which teaches you a lot about the techniques, the math behind supply chain models. We took up that as the first course, but there are a lot of manufacturing related courses as well.
Okay.
And to your point about you've seen a lot of students going for data scientist or data analyst route, those could be the people who have developed an interest in databases or data analytics through other courses, which is also what happened with me.
Right.
I joined a data lab with a professor. His course name was Data Driven Design.
Okay.
And that made me like this field more and more.
Okay.
All his content in the course was about how do you use data to drive design decisions in when you are creating new products or new generation products.
Wow. Okay.
But a lot of courses that were focused supply chain, manufacturing systems.
So how did you design your course? Like, what was your course?
I think when I went in, I started with saying, just like any industrial engineering student, supply chain. I want to do supply chain.
Okay.
I have no idea what it is, but I have heard this buzzword and I will do supply chain. I had no experience in that. So I started off with that, but I started taking up a lot of courses that had some project element in them because that helps you build your resume. If you are doing certain project, you use some tool, some programming, some sort of like technique.
Something which you can tell a story in your resume.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of problems in these projects relate to the real world problems as well. So you sort of get that flavor already. And when you're talking to recruiters, these things help to tell a story. So I started with taking core industrial engineering courses. And eventually when I found industrial engineering is not only supply chain, it's a lot more than that. I took up few courses from statistics department. So I went into stat after that. So I took, I think, a basic stats course and then also regression from the stats department. because those were allowed in our program.
Okay.
And then obviously this other flavor of data-driven design from my advisor. That was a course which was actually in the engineering design sort of domain. So that started with supply chain, realized that traditionally what I have learned back in India, it was mostly focused around core industrial engineering, because at that time it felt like being in a production sort of environment is industrial engineering. Like I could be working for an automotive company and that's industrial engineering.
Right.
But the techniques that really get used at those companies are outside of these courses. They are more around stat concepts and data analytics and things like that.
Okay.
So that's what I did. I chose supply chain optimization, supply chain engineering, manufacturing systems. And then I was like, let me try out something that's outside of this domain. So I went with stats. I went with data-driven design. Another really cool course I took was supply chain analytics. Again, supply chain, but it was more focused on analytics. So we used a lot of Excel in that case to build simulations and models. Super fun class. It was an undergraduate class from a business school. Super popular. And I think towards the end, I did quality engineering a little bit because that had a few stat concepts built into the quality domain. And I think I finished my course with advanced engineering economy. So that talked a lot about asset value, net present worth, future value, and things like that. But these were all, I said it that I hated math. I should have said not hated, but I did not really like calculus a lot. All these courses were pretty simple math kind of courses, and you could develop that interest doing stuff.
Cool. That was a super long answer.
Okay, sorry.
No, but that was good. That's good. That's a lot of information for audience. So I'm gonna tone it down to some simple questions because everybody likes to know these. What's the cost? Tuition fees for Penn State?
44,800, if I remember it correctly. All of it.
Okay.
This is just tuition fee.
Right. And then what's the living expenses?
I think tuition fee is 1,400 per credit, and this is 2014 rate I'm talking about.
So do you think that it might have been
increased? It may have changed a little now. At that point, it was 1,400, and I remember.
It's okay. I think it's 45,000 to 50,000 roughly. So
exactly.
It's a little bit roughly.
I'd say roughly 40,000 to 50,000.
Yeah.
That's just tuition fees. Living expenses really depends on what you want them to be.
Yeah. Like an average estimate.
You are looking at, if you are wanting to live in a room by yourself, then you're looking at around $350 per month.
So that's not bad. I've heard people spending 400, 500 and still sharing the room. So 350 is not that bad.
Well, I did not live on campus, right? So on campus expense would be crazy. That would be like 700.
I don't think, I've heard very rare people live on campus, but
graduate students generally do not.
Yeah. Okay, so 350, another ad, $150 for all the groceries,
other
internet,
stuff,
everything. So 500 max.
Yes,
500 to 600
per month.
Did you have on-campus job?
I did.
Okay.
I started with. Do you have to complete the question?
No, go ahead.
I started with, when I went in, we got to know that the dining commons, where generally students go and eat after their classes, which is basically like a canteen or a mess sort of a setup. You can get a job there very easily, and they would pay you around $8, which after taxes would come down to 6.75 per hour. By the way, this is all 2014, okay?
Yeah.
So we figured out that can happen, but you have to get registered for the classes, and you have to also get your SSN, Social Security stuff set up. So I did that. I used to work, I think, based on my shifts, I used to work around 20 hours. Try to work 20 hours. Sometimes they would not have shifts because a lot of students would want that, right? You have to
20 into 8 is
160. That's per week.
Per week, right?
Yeah.
So 640, 650.
Yeah, and after taxes, I used to get somewhere around 500 range.
So that would cover all your living expenses.
But that's like the ideal scenario. If you were able to work all 4 weeks,
hours.
all 20 hours.
Okay.
So 80 hours in a month, only then you would make that much. You would not always get a shift to work.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun though. I used to get $2 meals over there, unlimited.
Yeah.
And
that's funny. In our, if you work, you get free now. Like you don't have to pay at all.
Yes, and there like a $1 or $2 meal for everything unlimited. Plus, Penn State has its own creamery. They have their own ice cream set up.
Yeah.
So we would get to eat that for free as well. And a lot of my friends who were in my shift during those times, I gained a lot of weight then. A lot of weight. I remember going back to India in December and my parents were like, "You have become a teddy bear now."
That's funny. Cool. So it could cover your. Is that the only job you had on campus? Or?
Yeah, we were not allowed to do anything off campus.
No, like did you get any TA, RA?
Eventually.
Okay, you did get it.
Yes.
How did you get that?
So this thing, the dining commons job where I used to make sandwiches or like fries, curly fries and stuff like that, all good stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes also wash a lot of utensils, which was also fun. Like it was an experience.
Oh, that's why you wash dishes over here.
Exactly. I got trained in those days. But I hope Survi is not watching this. So this lasted for about 2 to 3 months, not more, because eventually there was news in the department that a professor is hiring for his lab, but the news spread like wildfire and everyone sort of like, oh, there's an opportunity, let's apply. So the professor decided, I'll interview everyone now. Earlier I did not have so many students, now I have so many, I'll interview. So he conducted interviews and he had funding which would pay the student like after every 6 months some stipend as a research scholar, and also a monthly stipend, which the rate was good. It was then bumped to a $15 per hour sort of rate.
Nice. Yeah.
And I think I joined the college in August 8th was when I landed, and by December I had figured out my TA RA position. But it was a proper interview process where you reach out to the professor, you ask them what are they looking for. If it matches your interest, then you go and talk to them, and they would sometimes ask you for your resume. So make sure that you have your resume prepared. As a bachelor student, you generally would not do that if you have already decided to go.
If they are watching my video, they know. They have to make their resume on the day one.
Yes, so make sure that you do it.
Yeah.
And I just had that conversation with the professor. There was alignment in what he wanted and what I was also interested in doing. It was a tough one though, because these are research problems. So you do not have the right or wrong answer for these, right? Like, the professor is just assessing what your
how you're trying to solve the problem.
Exactly, your thought process, which is what happens a lot in companies now. So he was trying to assess what my thought process is. I came back after the interview. I sent him a note and I told him that everything is super interesting. I would like to move forward if you feel I'm a good fit. And I think that proactiveness itself was quite critical, I feel, because you can imagine a professor wants you to be responsive when you are publishing a paper, so that you work on those changes quickly. So they sort of try to look at all the traits that you have as a researcher and bring it to their table. And it worked out. And he sent me an email. I met with a few other lab mates from his lab. They also chatted with me about the projects that they are working on. And everything that they were doing in the lab was quite futuristic. It was amazing. And it was a good match. So we did that. And then I started getting like $750 a month. Suddenly, attitude. I'm just kidding. I think But yeah, I suddenly felt like, wow, this is a lot of money. And I know we'll talk about this later, but I made a few financial decisions starting that point.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, so make sure to check the personal finance podcast with him. Okay, so got it. You did have some TA job at some point. Would you recommend Penn State to students?
Very much. I think
Okay.
it is a very, very good university. I am not sure, like people who are looking at industrial engineering or supply chain, their business school, which is called the Smeal College of Business, is ranked number one in the US for supply chain.
Oh, wow.
And their industrial engineering department, if I remember correctly, is the oldest industrial engineering department in the world. And it is great. The campus is epic.
Awesome. Yeah.
I feel bad
What
now.
about job, like job offer or like job location? Like does Pennsylvania have a lot of companies around, or you have to go out of Pennsylvania?
So you do have Pittsburgh, which
Yeah.
is a 2-hour drive. So by the way, Pennsylvania State University is in a small college town called State College or University Park, because there's only college. There's nothing else. College, students, and professors.
Right.
So you have Pittsburgh on one side, which is a big city.
Yeah.
A lot of good companies, PwC, Google, every company is there. And then you have Philadelphia, which is again a big city on the East Coast. So you have companies coming from these two big cities into Penn State, but there is New York, which is just a 4 hours drive as well. So you have a lot of these big fours, EY, PwC, Deloitte, KPMG. They all come to Penn State and they hire a lot for
And
consulting.
when you say come for career
fair,
fairs,
they all come for career fair. So you will see at the career fair there's Microsoft, there is all these big fours. There are a lot of automotive companies as well who are hiring for industrial engineering students. But there is no scarcity of job opportunities, I would say. In the beginning, everyone had this opinion that location is really important and you have to be in a certain big city to get a job. But if the university is good enough, people will come to you and take you from there into those big cities. So there was no scarcity of jobs. I can confidently say more than 97% of our batch was placed successfully, and pretty much everyone had an internship of some sort.
Oh, nice. Okay. Did you have internship?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So we'll talk about that in our next Career Wala podcast, where we talk about internship and how we got into jobs and Google and all of that. Cool. So this is kind of my last question. Anything you feel like you wish you knew or you would have done it better? This is kind of a tips or things looking back in time is like, I wish I would have done that better.
I think more than better, I could have probably done additional things on top of. You all get messed up with this whole loan thing when you are trying to come. So your focus is more. I think before coming, you get super focused on managing your funds and looking after all your loan procedures. So you could have probably been more, or I could have probably been more proactive in reaching out to the professors and making that initial touch with them more proactive rather than coming onto the campus. But I got engaged a lot with my loan stuff.
Got it.
And the second thing would be to understand what you really want to do. I stepped into that phase a little late. And I took up a few courses which I could have avoided. Like, there was no need for it. It did not help me in my career.
Right.
And it did not help me decide where I want to go. So those things could be where you can consult with your seniors who are already in the college and understand what you are really looking for. And map out a lot of their journeys through LinkedIn or just the internet. Find out what each person has done and how did they reach a certain point.
Yeah. Okay. And before we end this, is there any final tips, words of wisdom for students who are coming to United States?
I do not refrain from applying for ambitious colleges is what I would say. I have seen a lot of people holding back because they think that my score is not good, or oh no, this college is crazy, they will never accept me. But things can work out. And even I, like, Penn State was a surprise for me.
Yeah.
And at that point, I decided, if this last, like, Penn State doesn't come, I'm not going, because you are spending a lot of money.
Right.
So make sure it's worth
Yeah.
the time that you spend here.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Like, you apply for the colleges which you feel are going to build your career and actually give you that nice exposure that you need, versus toning down your applications just because your scores are not good and things like that.
Yeah.
98, 310.
Yeah, I mean 294, 85. So, so I think, yeah. I mean, I think the point is that regardless or irrespective of your score, don't give up on your dreams, and you can still keep applying.
And if first year doesn't happen, do it again and come back again. Like,
yeah,
you can always take a pause and come.
Yeah. Cool, man. Thank you so much for doing this. It really means a lot to me and our Yudi Squad community. Until our next episode,
keep smiling and keep hustling.
Gotta hustle every single day.